We often speak as if artificial intelligence lives in the cloud. But clouds do not float above history. They run on Earth. They run through mines, data centers, water systems, energy grids, supply chains, labor systems, landscapes, and laws. They run through ecosystems already under pressure. They run through a planet with limits. And that means the future of AI is not only a computational question, it is an ecological question. This is where I think our public language is still too small. We talk endlessly about intelligence, but intelligence according to what model? Faster prediction, larger memory, greater automation. Nature offers a different answer. In living systems, intelligence is not just speed, it is adaptation, it is balance, it is fit within a wider web of life. It is the capacity to sustain flourishing without collapsing the conditions that make flourishing possible. That is ecological intelligence. And the central claim of this talk is simple: technology must learn from life. Power needs a compass. And on a planetary scale, ecology is part of that compass. The ecological imagination begins with a very old truth. Nothing exists in isolation. Forests, rivers, fungi, pollinators, predators, climate systems, soil microbes, seeds, seasons, life persists through relationship. Waste from one process becomes nourishment for another. Energy flows matter, cycles matter, timing matters, limits matter. Now compare that with how many technological systems are built: extract, scale, optimize, externalize costs, patch consequences later. That is not the logic of an ecosystem, that is the logic of exhaustion. And so the great design challenge before us is not merely to make AI more powerful, it is to make AI more life aligned. What would that mean? It would mean designing systems that use energy more wisely. It would mean treating environmental costs as real costs, not invisible side notes. It would mean building with renewable power, circular materials, and ecological restraint. It would mean asking not only whether a system performs well, but whether it belongs well within the Earth system that supports it. The manuscript frames this beautifully through the idea of AI as a guardian of the Earth rather than a tool of extraction. I think that shift in language matters. A guardian protects what it depends on. A guardian does not confuse domination with mastery. A guardian understands that long-term health is more important than short-term gain. Imagine what changes when that becomes the design ethic. Now, AI is not just used to maximize consumption, it is used to restore watersheds, to monitor biodiversity, to protect forests, to manage agriculture more sustainably, to forecast ecological stress, to support conservation, to help societies live within planetary boundaries rather than pretend those boundaries do not exist. That is a different technological civilization, and it asks something difficult of us. It asks us to abandon the fantasy that progress and extraction are the same thing. They are not. A society can become more technologically advanced while becoming more ecologically reckless. It can become more connected while becoming more biologically fragile. It can become more efficient while quietly undermining the very systems that keep it alive. So here's the question I want to put to the audience. What counts as innovation on a dying planet? It is not enough to say a system is impressive. We must ask whether it is regenerative, because regeneration is the ecological standard of maturity. In nature, the healthiest systems are not those that consume the most. They are those that renew, recycle, diversify, stabilize, and adapt. What if our technologies were held to the same standard? What if AI had to prove not only that it is useful, but that it supports resilience? What if innovation were judged partly by whether it strengthens the fabric of life? What if intelligence were measured not only by problem solving power, but by its capacity to preserve the future? This is where the seven generations perspective becomes so powerful. It expands the moral frame. It reminds us that the consequences of design are not exhausted by quarterly results, investor enthusiasm, or short election cycles. A mature civilization thinks beyond the immediate user. It thinks about descendants, watersheds, species, communities not yet born. Seven generations is not just a timeline, it is an ethic of humility. It says you are not the end point of history. Build accordingly. And there is another lesson ecology offers, that our culture desperately needs rest. In the manuscript, the Sabbath principle is reinterpreted as a call for restraint and renewal. That insight is profound. Living systems cannot survive endless extraction. Soils need recovery. Waters need healing. Bodies need sleep. Minds need stillness. Communities need time. Even technology requires governance that knows when to pause, reflect, and redesign. A civilization incapable of rest is a civilization headed toward burnout, ecological burnout, social burnout, spiritual burnout. So, ecological intelligence is not only about climate and conservation, it is about learning the grammar of life itself. Interdependence, balance, diversity, reciprocity, regeneration, limits, renewal. These are not obstacles to progress. They are the conditions of durable progress. And perhaps that is the most important shift of all. We should stop asking whether technology can conquer nature. It cannot, it is already inside nature. The real question is whether human intelligence can grow wise enough to participate in Earth's living systems without degrading them. If it can, then AI may become one of the great tools of restoration. If it cannot, then AI will simply magnify the contradictions of a civilization that confuses power with permission. Technology must learn from life, because any intelligence that cannot protect the conditions of life is not yet intelligent enough. So, the future will belong not to the technologies that extract the most, but to the intelligences that learn how to help life endure, adapt, and flourish.